A warm good evening to everyone, and a heartfelt welcome to today's discussion organized by Talking Films Online, also known as TFO. My name is Tanmay, and I am your host for today's session. TFO began its journey with Professor Nikhila and Dr. Gita Vishwanath in June 2020 during the lockdown. Over the years, TFO has metamorphosed from a spontaneous idea into an expanding community of cinephiles, encompassing scholars, researchers, students, professors, filmmakers, and anyone passionate about cinema. We are delighted to have sustained this forum thanks to you, who gather every Saturday at 9 p.m. as per Indian Standard Time on Zoom to talk about films. It has been TFO's practice to invite individuals to select and lead discussions. So, as I'm saying, that TFO has the pleasure of hosting eminent filmmakers, professors, scholars, cinematographers, and editors like Aparna Sen, Amal Palekar, Girish Kasarvalli, and Adur Gopalakrishnan. Our journey has also included film festivals such as South Asian, East European, Iranian, Women Cinema, among others. And every June, TIFA hosts a smartphone short filmmaking contest for students and organizes a lecture series in university departments to commemorate this anniversary. In September 2024, we organized our first offline event, an international seminar on Indian cinema in the digital era in collaboration with FCT Baroda. Last year, we also organized our second international conference in hybrid mode, uh, titled Screen to Street Decoding Cinema in Everyday Life, in collaboration with Banwaridal Bhalotia College, Asansol, West Bengal. For tonight's discussion, we'll focus on the film Sad Letters of an Imaginary Woman, directed by Nidhi Saxena. Uma Magal ma'am has kindly joined us today for the discussion. It is my great pleasure to introduce Uma ma'am, a documentary filmmaker, educator, arts writer, and theatre practitioner whose career spans over 3 decades across 3 continents. Her award-winning feature documentary, Other Kohinoors and Rocks of Hyderabad, explores landscape, memory, environmental dark consciousness, and has been screened at major festivals, including the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne and the UK Asian Film Festival. Her broader filmography explores themes of community, the environment, and cultural identity. Uma ma'am has also published scholarship on cinema and written arts journalism for major publications. She co-authored the book Rasayana for Childcare, Joy of Herbs and Healing on Traditional Medicine and Knowledge. Holding advanced degrees in film, communication, and political science, she has taught filmmaking and cinema studies at several universities, both nationally and internationally. Now, it also delights me to announce that Nidhi Saxena, the director of the film, has graciously accepted the invitation to join us today. Nidhi Saxena is an Indian filmmaker whose work explores human vulnerability and existential themes through a poetic and visually rich cinematic language. Trained in sculpture and fine arts before studying filmmaking at the Film and Television Institute of India, she creates films that often move beyond conventional narrative structures toward the abstract and spiritual. She is the first Indian woman director to receive support from the Asian Cinema Fund and the Biennale College Cinema. Her debut feature, Sad Letters of an Imaginary Woman, the film that we are discussing today, premiered at the Busan International Film Festival in 2024, while her second film, Secret of a Mountain Serpent, premiered at the Venice Film Festival in 2025. Currently working on a third feature film, Azad Nagar, Saxena ma'am also works with marginalized women through initiatives supported by the United Nations Population Fund and has written children's books reflecting her interest in imagination and memory. We are truly honored to have Uma and Nidhi ma'am with us today, and we look forward to an engaging and thought-provoking discussion. Now I'm handing over the mic to Uma ma'am. Ma'am, you can proceed.
Thank you so much, Tanmay. Thank you, TFO. It's always a pleasure to be back here talking films. Um, I'm delighted that you asked me to see this film because I would have never seen it otherwise. So I'm so happy I got a chance to see it. Um, and I must say that I really enjoyed the thoughts it brought to me and all that it made me ponder. So I think some of you know me from earlier talks and know that I meander and wander. So to avoid that, I have made a list of points that I will talk about so that I stay on track, and I will be going in that order. So once again, thank you for this opportunity to see this, very moving film and to think about the issues it raises and what it makes us think about, the inner lives of women, the way we see the world, and what Nidhi has brought to it. So I'll dive in. Um, First of all, it's a really resonant title. Huh? And I'd like to hear more from everyone about it, especially Nidhi, about the responses to it, because it's a very strong, provocative title. And it's interesting to me to know how people responded to it. Hmm? So the imaginary in the title, who exactly is imaginary? This seems deliberately unresolved. Is this imaginary woman the younger self? The self that could have existed if this whole trauma had not happened or intervened? Is it the mother's possible unlived life? There are so many possibilities. And I really liked how we are invited to sit with these ambiguities. That was something that particularly reached out to me. I'll try and set the context I found for the film, where I placed it while I watched it. I watched it twice, once on my laptop, and then it was so beautiful. I saw it again on a bigger screen, and thank God for that. It was really the shots, the visuals, the soundtrack. It was marvelous. Um, so the film really brought to my mind the works of in the heritage of Toni Morrison, Marquez, Johann Rulfo, Tarkovsky, Ray, Prema Karanth, Mrinal Sen, Manikol, all the masters of magical realism also. And the way a magical realism brings together conflicting worldviews. It challenges linear time, it challenges everything. It documents memory and identity. It tries to document, it attempts to document memory and identity, to process trauma. All of these are very present in this work, and I could feel waves of all this reaching out as the film flowed. Flowed is an important word because liquid and water is so important in this film. I enjoyed the way the film has of making poetry of words, sounds, images, and how they dissolve and separate throughout the film. They dissolve together and then they separate. And it's very interesting to see that process. It's an experimental film, clearly, and we all know that experimental films, by definition, experiment with the grammar of the language. And it does this for sure. And the impact of the way these words and images and sounds function come together is that it creates kind of a mythology of the everyday, which is what I really loved about it. If I had to pick one thing, maybe soundtrack is actually above this, but the one thing is the way it mythologizes the everyday, the ordinary, which our lives are so full of. Um, and and that mythologizing is turned towards these themes that the film is delving into, going so deep into. So drops of water on an iron, curtains billowing, an apple slipping from a hand. We'll come to more about all this, but these are the everyday things that acquire this intense meaning because of the way the film works, the images, the sounds, and the words. there's really a coming together of very emotional visual sounds and words, incredibly creative shots. And I'm very curious. I hope Nidhi is able to answer this. How how these images were conjured in the filmmaker's mind? I mean, why would you think of this particular way of seeing it? And that process is very intriguing to me. So if we have a chance, I'd love to hear from the filmmaker about it. But yeah, and all of y'all, how you all related to which shot, what spoke to you. So yeah, I'm very curious. How does why would you think of you know yeah, that those curtains billowing and the shadows behind them? How did you conjure that? Why would you think of an apple? Of course, the apple is obvious. You know, Eve, Adam, all that is there. But apart from that, how does one imagine these internal dimensions of the way women think and feel? Hmm? And the soundtrack. Oh my God, we'll come back to the soundtrack. Yeah. Okay. So, just to talk, give an example of the shot that I'm talking about that brings these things together. So I'm sure you all will remember, there's an older woman, yeah, who fades walking away from the camera, yeah, and a young girl walks towards the camera, but the voice is of the older woman. So these kind of disjoints, these ellipses are full in the film, but yet I didn't find it. Um, I didn't find it alienating at all. It sort of led me in to its way of thinking, and that's what I felt was powerful in this making. And the words in that were no less impactful, for and and not the least for how sparing they were. Yeah, the words used in the film are so sparing, but they're very powerful. Like, we will be captured as museums of our past. All homes are like cavities. You can make a new key for a lock, but what can you do with a key that has no lock? I mean, these are really, really resonant lines of writing. And that lock thing, unlocking what? What is she trying to unlock? We can't stop thinking about that, right? So it's a very powerful metaphor, and all of it comes together. And we fathom meanings. We're made to fathom. We're brought into the film so much. Nothing's given. Nothing is easy in this film. Nothing is given to us. We have to fathom the meanings of what is presented, where the sum is larger than the parts of our understanding. That much is clear. I don't think any of us went away from this film, thinking, oh, I got it. I'm sure not. We know that that sum is larger than what we've understood, but we understood, and that is the magic. Because there are deep connections to this substructure, yeah, of all our substructures, to emotions, of psychology, of grief, of desire, that all universal, that all speak to us. And I think that's why we have these gleanings of, oh, that's what it is, as we move along. So visuals, sounds, and words coming together. I have to say a quick word about colors and light. The visuals are so beautiful. Yeah, the color palette. I was just really, I think that's what drew me first to the film. I was cold. I was okay. This sad letters of an imaginary woman. This is going to be hard. you know, I went in. I knew, but the palette was so beautiful. It was so somehow soft and appealing that I just got into it. And it's very deliberate. Clearly, there's lots of blue, and there's pink and white. It's all soft and really attractive, despite the darkness it's set against, the grays and the browns. Is someone trying to talk? I hear some sounds. No? Okay, I'll carry on. So the visuals made it very engrossing for me, really, and the fluidity between the ellipses that we talked about. So much is unsaid, and yet the house is thick and heavy with all of it. And all those cliches about walls come up. If walls could talk, if walls have ears, etc., etc. All those cliches come to your mind, as she roams around. trying to document. And then I think all of you must have felt this. The house is a character in itself. Yeah. The decaying ancestral home is not just a setting, it's a psychological space. And what does it mean to make a film that refuses to step outside? Yeah, what is it telling us? What is it doing to us as viewers? And how does architecture become the mirror of this psychosis, or whatever we want to call it, the psychic stasis, or whatever it is? Don't know the right word, but how is the architecture functioning here? Yeah. What is that staircase and the shots of the man and the daughter telling us? He's the one going up and down that staircase. He's mobile. Um, why is he on the stairs and no one else? Why is everyone so static otherwise and little bit of movement? Why? Um, the house as a character is so appropriate, for a film that's so internal in its focus, so spare in its characters. You need more characters, so the house becomes one. And it really speaks to understandings around place and the hold that place has on people. Yeah, we all know this, whether it's our hometown or whatever it is, our house, or, where we studied, whatever it is, place has a real hold on us. And that house really works in that context as well. Yeah, and it really feels, it feels less like a location and more like a condition, like really. Um, And, another question for Nidhi, if she's, if we can ask her later. I kept thinking as I watched, how much did the space itself shape the film? It's so integral to it. It's so back and forth with it that I was wondering that a lot as I watched it. And that goes back to the question of how did the team visualize this? How did they visualize the shot? For each emotion, for each action, for each sequence, and how did the house play into that screenplay? Hmm? Okay, soundtrack. I think the soundtrack is the heroine of the film. Yeah. Um, the sound register is so unusual, but it's so related to the context. The soundtrack is a character in itself. Hmm? Um, that shot that we see in the opening, with the woman wielding the boom mic. What is she recording? What is that boom recording? And why is it so phallic? There's no getting away from that, right? It's just so phallic in imagery. Um, and that, I think, is a very, very powerful way that the filmmaker chose to show how we document. Even our documentation comes through this phallic imagery. And that really it really shook me a bit. Um, um, so the boom mic is documenting as well as fantasizing. The whole film is like you don't know where reality stops and fantasy begins. It's that whole magic realism thing. Timelines are colliding, memories are colliding, nostalgia is colliding, fantasy is colliding, desire is colliding. So you never are sure what is the truth. But one thing is true, at the end, you feel these two women. So that is the power, the strength, the success of the filmmaking team and the film. The film, I think, expands our senses. I think that's the success of the film too. It just expands our senses. When we see and hear and listen, and so much more than we would normally. Yeah. And that is, it expands our senses. It expands our sense of women. Yeah. And the politics of gender and desire. All of that is very well handled in the film. There's intimacy and alienatingness. I think that's a wrong word, doesn't belong in any language, but alienatingness is part of the film. And it's married to intimacy. Both of them go together. So memories that include fantasy and oniric, dreamlike dislocations of time. And the boom mic is doing all of it with that. And sound functions as bridges. That's so interesting. I like the way the sound designer and the director did this. The lady, if you remember, is in the chair sleeping with the apple, the knife in her hand. She's going to cut it and eat it or give it to the daughter or whatever. But she falls asleep and there's noise on the television. And, she wakes up with the sharp, insistent sound, and it's a sensory bridging to the present, but it's clear that that sound itself belongs to the past. So it's such an intermix. It's so complex, but it's very clear. It's got complexity and clarity in the same thing, which is the power of good experimental cinema. Huh? Sound functions as bridges, a sensory bridging to various timelines. Rain and water. These deserve their own conversation in this film. Yeah. I'm sure you all will agree. And most of Tarkovsky's films come to mind, really. His Rain is so beautiful in this film. And, we lost Bela Tar recently, and he said the best. He said it best. He said, in Tarkovsky's films, rain cleanses. In my films, it turns things to mud. So it's so interesting that the same rain can function so differently, and this film also, it soaks us in this strange sort of intimacy with these women. It's a wet, fluid world, yeah, very sensual, and it provides a continuity of like acoustic experience and sensations. The rain sort of really brings things, it ratchets things up on the emotional filmmaking register. So water, it's so interesting. The water can dissolve and dissipate, right? Water, but it can also combine and associate things. Water is very interesting. Rain and water, it's a very, very well thought of metaphor that this film uses. It does so many things. Yeah. And this ability of water to simultaneously dissolve and unite. It dissolves it off and unites it also. It's so right, so appropriate for this ambiguous, billowing tone of the film. It's all back and forth. It's ambiguous, it's mysterious, it's yet intimate. And this water in the tonal register is very, very appropriate. I'll give you an example. In one of the earlier shots, when she's saying, मैं दिख रही हूँ, मैं दिख रही हूँ, मैं दिख रही हूँ, मैं दिख रही हूँ, and it goes on. And there's the sound of walking in water. They're constantly walking in water. And then there's the sound of the water going into a drain and just draining off. Yeah. And that matches the image of the image fades and the draining off sound matches it. And there are two voices talking about visibility. It's so well thought of. It's so beautifully put together. It's experimental cinema, really well done. So we're never on solid ground in every way, metaphorically, physically, cinematically. We're never on solid ground in terms of our understanding. We are never on solid ground, and the women are never on solid ground in this film. The two women. There's water and fluidity, and water finds its way. There's really like a water choir on the soundtrack, that guides and misguides us. It's a downpour, a really downpour of memories and remembering and all of that. And wind also plays a role. Now it's so interesting. I loved that. There's wind, the fan that she keeps trying to record the sound of. There's wind coming in from the curtains, and the big breaths blowing out the candles at the birthday candle, blowing it out. It brings so much fresh interest to the film, this wind aspect. And in the sequence where she's waiting for the call, right? The phone rings, the old woman, the phone rings and she picks it up with a smile. And then there's dissonance on the soundtrack. And we see the young girl is recording her with a camera this time, right? And we know that she's the one who reveals her whole secret to everyone. And this is the mother's memory of it, but she's old now, and the daughter is still a kid. It's all so so fluid, in timelines and memory, but the emotional impact is clear. Um, and then the daughter is now old, and she blows out a fire that we don't even see. She's blowing, and the wind helps, the elements in this film. It goes along and it comes together with the elements of the film. Then later they're both sleeping, and she says, "Don't die, because I'll be so lonely if you die." And I want to explode, that sequence. Remember when they're both lying under the net? It's a lovely, intimate moment of them talking. And she says, "I'm like a black hole," and then there's talk about there's no pigeons, just the aeroplanes flying and crashing. And then the mother says, "Can't you ever talk straight?" Which is nice. And then, the mother's trying to console her, and again wind comes. She says, "Ek lambi saans lo." Take a deep breath. Huh? Yeah. So much for wind. I'll move on. I'm getting towards the end of my little contribution, and I really want us to talk more together. I hate monologues, so I'll try and wrap this up quickly so that we can chat more. Hmm? Um, um, I'll Let me talk about some of the shots, the phallic shots, the man shots, the boom mic in hand, and then again she's roaming around with that boom mic, and we've talked about how that's so phallic in itself. And then there's a painting on the wall in the far right hand background, and it's tera, it's a little tilted, yeah. And there's the VO, the voiceover of the man saying, "Main nahi karna chahta tha." And we're wondering because we have no idea what is the abuse that happened. We know that slapping scene, slap yourself, it was awful. It was so powerful. It was so much more powerful than him slapping her, telling her to slap herself. I mean, I can't tell you how much it was just really powerful. And then we have no idea what happened when he went upstairs and he comes out of that cloth. We don't know what kind of trauma was inflicted. I, if I had to guess, I would say it wasn't sexual, but it was violence. But I don't know. We'll ask Nidhi if she knows, you know. Um, and then I thought I could be wrong, and please, all of you all, help me here. I thought I heard music, singing only when the man's photo or picture or something comes. I thought that, but I may be wrong. And then, of course, the snake as the belt, totally phallic. There's no getting away from snake imagery and women and, that metaphor. And the snake charmer on the bus that's snaking through that valley, that shot is just so stunning, and the light of the bus just going through that valley in one long shot. It's just one of the most beautiful shots I've seen. So that was, and the snake charmer. Yeah. And how sound, voice, and image, really convey something that's larger than the parts. The shot is really a lesson in that. The shot where the mom is saying, "Was my love enough for you?" And there's a knocking sound on the soundtrack. And you feel that desire for an opening, just that desire. And that's drowned out by the sound of water and waves crashing. So it's very thoughtfully put together, and you have to pay a lot of attention. The film asks a lot of you, of the spectator. I don't know how many, I hope, I wasn't able to research how the audience responded to this film, and Nidhi will fill us in. But I hope there was a great response, because it's a tough film to view. To get it, to pay attention to everything. It takes a while to get into it, to get the language, to understand what it's doing with all these elements, that it's working so well that by the time you're halfway into it, you've missed a lot, and then you gather some, right? So that, I think, that would have happened, and then you have to see it again, and that's of course always good. To see something, a film that you really like again, is always good. because you then are ready to pick up on everything else. So anyway, I'm meandering and lecturing. Sorry. Um, so and then the shot of that loss of desire with the apple. She's sleeping and it slips out of her hand. That shot is also very tells us a lot. Okay, so and then there's that shot where I'm just going to talk about some shots, and please feel free to, we'll talk about more when you all talk about the ones you loved or hated or didn't understand or whatever it may be. So remember there's a scene where they say our love will not end, and it's like past and present collide, and there's a huge sound on the soundtrack of the cup and saucer breaking. It's just one more example of very well thought out, very well done experimental cinema grammar. Yeah, so then there's another shot later on of the same TV noise and her sleeping in the chair as before, but time has moved on more, and she seems more decrepit, more frail, more broken seeming. It's just done with the way it's shot. And immediately after that, we see that note, about a continent breaking under the weight of hopes and dreams, and only ping pong playing wires of complaints binding the pieces together. Yeah, how I wish the past did not move with us, but it was left behind and immobile. But I'm terrified to say we're not moving on. मैं कहते हुए कांप रही हूँ कि हमारा समय नहीं बीत रहा. It's just very good writing. I mean, really moving writing. Okay, then I'll get to the point of fire and water. These two are very well used again. For instance, the smoldering iron, attempting to be cooled shot. I was really taken with that. The sound of the water sprinkled on it. Everything is smoldering in this film. And, they're trying to cool it. You clearly get that. And then, then that's all in close-up. That's that water on the iron. And then the reveal in the medium-long shot. And the phone ring connecting her to as an adult, and then the light goes out. So it's really, very interesting to see how it develops. And I enjoyed that a lot. And then she gets a candle when the light goes out, and we're all worried that it'll go out, right? Because there's this breeze that's moving the curtain. There's a clear breeze around. And she walks again in the sound of water, not on solid ground. So will she slip? Will the wind blow it out? Will she fall and the fire get extinguished? It's full of possibilities. Yeah, so the hot iron with the water, the candle precarious walking in water, the fire and water motif keeps getting repeated. One of my favorite water motif shots, the leaking roof, right? And it's beautifully shot. The water drops are collected in a bowl. That shot is the palette is so beautiful. And the man waters the plant with those saved drops, right? It's all very beautiful. And then the flower comes, right? And then the scene where the flower blooms in the pot after the man puts the rainwater into it, no, that one. The girl wakes up and hears the mother talking. Yeah, she listens behind the door, and try. We spend a lot of time looking at her listening, and then she opens it, and we see the balcony space in front with a person standing, and you're wondering, is it that man? Who is it? And then she enters that space behind the curtain. And as it moves back and forth, the mother and the daughter speak back and forth in, a really moving exchange. She says, who are you talking to? The daughter says. And the mother says, the plants, they like it and they grow well. And then the daughter says, I really love this. Mujhse karo. And the mother says, kya? And she says, baat. The way they did it is really, really well done. The image, the words, the sounds behind the curtain, all that shadowy, it all unites to convey meaning, the need for mother's love and nurture. And the child's parental love is it's one of the clearest things in the film. There's so much ambiguity, but this is clear. There's that rhyme that was picked was also lovely, that Saat Samundar Par Se. It's such a beautiful, childhood nursery rhyme. गुड़ियों के बाजार से अच्छी सी गुड़िया लाना, गुड़िया चाहे ना लाना, पापा जल्दी घर आना. It's just so moving, so well picked. I can only compliment the team and Nidhi. Okay, so I'm coming to the end, but memory and emotion are not exhausted by just the speech, as we just talked about this rhyme and the kisse baat, kya baat, and all that, which is so good. It's not exhausted by just that. The soundtrack gives it another life, like we talked, an inner life, dense with memory, regret, fear, longing, wounds. The soundtrack gives shape to these states that the characters almost don't know or know to put into words. A second narrative register that turns the psychological world, that tunes into the psychological world of the characters, into emotive tonal textures on the soundtrack, which the imagery then intensifies. The persistence of memory, the fragility of hope, fear of intimacy, fear of abandonment, the grief of lost youth, the approach of the end. So many themes delved into masterfully, mistressfully, whatever the word is. The film protects ambiguity. It really protects it. Uh, um, and yet it's unusually honest about the way two traumatized women can both sustain and damage each other without either being villainous. Hmm? Mother's not a monster. Nidhi's not a monster. They're caught in in like a whirl of mutual disappointment and love. It's quite rare to pull this off well, and this film I thought was successful. There's no clean moral hierarchy between Meera and Nidhi from mother and the daughter. The film refuses to assign blame and lets both characters be both victim and wounder. Um, and ultimately, it aims and succeeds in reaching what all good cinema does, whether it's experimental or whatever it is, emotional truth. And that came out most clearly to me. Um, So I guess that's it. I will wind up here. I'm really delighted again, once again, TFO, to have this chance to see this film and think about it. Yeah. Thanks again.
Thank you, ma'am. And Nidhi Saxena, ma'am, would you have anything to add on?
Hi. Yeah. Hi. Sorry, I'm late, but I'm here. Yes. Thank you so much, Uma, for talking so highly. I mean, I was listening to you and I was feeling, oh, acha. I mean, because this is a film from which you can drive many meanings. It's not something which I'm underlining that this is the only meaning you can perceive, but you can guess many meanings from the film. And I was listening to it and I was thinking, oh, really? Wow, great. This is a new perspective which I got. Thank you so much to invite my film. And yeah, it was a very festival film. So it got a very, it went on festival rounds, but then I felt that it's dying because no OTT is ready to, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's about mother and daughter relationship. And a few days back, I was sitting with some writer and filmmaker friends, and they were talking about mothers in films. And I felt that every boy um, have a very different idea of mothers in films, especially. And they said, no, a mother can't do this. And I was feeling, but mother can do the worst things to their, at least to their daughters. And I felt, no, to their son also. Maybe they don't know. So I felt that men have put the mother on some hierarchy that, I mean, it's like a filmy hierarchy in which you cannot say a bad thing to mother. You, I mean, mother, I mean, it's different. And I felt, no, but my mother is not like that. My mother is no one, as Uma also said, that no one is actually a villain, but who is the villain? I mean, maybe there are socio-economical situations in which they have got stuck in, because it's a middle class family, but clearly the house was somehow a patriarchal zamindar house. But once now they are in a very in a very humble situation. So, so of course, these two women have been locked for some time in this patriarchal, in this shattering house, which says a history of class and caste also. So they both of them are victims, but as you said, that they are constantly, I mean, they are constantly giving each other also a difficult time because they don't know. I mean, in houses also, women didn't know who to trouble. I mean, they usually, women tend to choose a less powerful women to, yeah, I mean, it's they are victims, but they didn't know that. So yeah, I was also feeling that these kids, uh, they are also not very innocent kids. So I was reading when I adapted this film. I read a book by R.G. Lang, Politics of the Family, and few poetries from R.D. Lang, and I got stuck on one poetry which was a conversation between a father and a son. And I was just thinking, अगर मुझे किसी से honest conversation करना होगा, तो who would be that? And I felt it can be only my mother. And I started to write that conversation, which I really want to have with my mother. And I felt, but we never speak actually. We don't speak in houses and homes. Homes are all about secrets, all about hiding secrets. But all those things which we try to hide from each other, the house has the vibe of that secrets, of that uh, the I mean, the walls know what a man or a woman can be a different people outside of the home, but when they are in their home, houses have the vibe of everything, whichever they are going through. So yeah, it's a sad family which is going through something or many things, and the house have the clear the clear things of that, I would say, wounds of the family. The house is carrying that wounds. So you were telling about the violence scene when father is so and many of the women and men also ask me that is it sexual, and I said I
Feel that.
always, yeah, I don't know, because I feel when someone rape you, it's also about power, and I feel that all kind of violence is a kind of rape actually. It's there is something a bit like a, I mean, it's a big word to use, but I always feel it's all about power. So yeah, it maybe it's not. So in the film, actually, it's not the sexual, but because in my mind, all kind of violence is a form of sexual violence. So I think it came uh, not, I will not say unconsciously, it came in the film. I think it was a bit of conscious. It's conscious also.
And I think that's, if I can quickly say, in this particular context, we see him and we see her naked, and immediately sexual connotations come. But still, I didn't feel that there was a rape of a sexual nature, but there's tons of abuse, definite, of very serious abuse. Yeah.
So in my mind, it was not sexual, but all violence is sexual. All violence is equal to sexual violence. So I mean, yeah. So I think I tried to build this violence scene between these two. And you were talking about, so I was telling you that I was reading R.D. Land's Politics of the Families, and I feel no, children are also not very innocent.
Hmm.
No, they know who is in the power position, and they
Hmm.
tend to choose a parent and back that parent. And this girl knows that actually his father is in the power position, and she can blackmail her mother. She also want her attention, but there is no connection. I mean,
Hmm.
mother is certainly somewhere else, and she has a very abrupt kind of relationship with her daughter. She doesn't hate her, but she is full of guilt in the end of their lives, in the end of her life, or when she is much elder, because I was feeling that parents also change certain. I mean, when they are very different from when they are in their 30s or 40s, they are very different people. But when they cross 60s or 70s, they become very kind and very different. And but children still have their traumas. They still carry those traumas in their body, and they don't know what to do with them. They look very humble. They don't look in that situation. And then we feel that, but when they used to beat us, we were also very in a very powerless situation. So it's a complicated relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you were talking about water. I mean, it's everywhere. In my film, water is everywhere. Water. So actually, I wanted to create a narrative, which is usually in films we hear the sound, like if someone is opening the door, we hear the sound of the door opening. But I wanted to create a parallel narrative. The things which we are not seeing in the film, I wanted to create them with the help of sound. And so I imagined that maybe this lover of this mother works on a ship in the sea, and
Ah.
he works on a ship in the sea. Or because years back I read this novel by Shiv Shankar Pillai, Machuare, the
Hmm.
fisherman. I don't know what is it's a Malayali novel. What is the Malayali? I'm forgetting the Malayali name. Uh, so in that,
Chemin.
yeah, Chemin, right. So in that novel, this lover and sorry, the husband used to go to the sea in nights, and I am so fascinated with this novel, and so I imagined that maybe this lover works
Hmm.
on a ship, or maybe he has gone to in in the sea. So I connected the lover's memory with the water, with the sea. But it does many things. I mean, her inner life, her soul is also disrupted as sea waves, and it's working like that also.
Mhm.
We don't know what is going through, what she's going through. And but maybe with the sea waves we can imagine, or maybe we can feel that, like the dialogues, most of the dialogues are they're like fill in the blanks, like the dialogue which you said, मैं नहीं करना चाहता था,
Hmm.
नहीं करना चाहता था. So I thought maybe everyone has something which I mean, something on which they feel guilty about, that काश मैंने वो नहीं किया होता. So maybe everyone can put their guilt after that line. मैं नहीं करना चाहता था, मैं करना नहीं चाहता था, what? I mean, you better know what it is. Yeah, and just say, like in that scene in which she is मैं दिख रही हूँ, मैं नहीं दिख रही हूँ. I mean, in that also I used water because I felt maybe she is sinking. She is fighting for her existence, and she wants to be seen. And she is asking also. It's like a chip and chipai also. It's like a,
Hmm.
what do we call chip and chipai? Look at
Hide and seek.
Yeah, hide and seek. It's like that also, but she wants to be seen, but maybe she is thinking. So yeah, I use
Mm.
and I mean many things. I can go on and on, but I can totally say. And about sound design, one more thing. So I'm a fan of John Rulfo, who wrote Pedro Paramo.
Pedro,
Yeah. And so when me and my sound designer was talking, I said that I want this film to feel like Pedro Paramo, and I underline many paragraphs from the story, and I gave them to him to read it, because it's a very it's a very I mean it's a very film like novel, but it's more sound in this novel also. Because of magical realism, nothing is real, nothing is sure. And v- in Pedro Paramov, she locked him in a room where he hear a lot of sound from the history of the room actually. So that sound design came from Pedro
that's
Paramov. I mean, most of the sound came from Pedro Paramov. This film, I think, came from Artie Lang, Politics of the Fact. Yeah,
Can I have two questions. Can I just quickly ask them and then we can move on to more questions?
sure,
So
sure.
how did you imagine the shots? It's very, because they're very different, right? They're not your normal, अच्छा ये दोनों अब बेड में दिखेंगे, लाइट लगाओ, long shot दिखाओ. It's not like that at all. There's these mysterious billowing curtains under a mosquito net, and so how?
I think I believe that films are not to tell stories, but it's about to practice craft, the craft of cinema, like Seurat or Monet or Van Gogh. They all have their different brush strokes, and they don't just. I mean, whatever they're painting, it's not just about that image. It's about their craft also. How they put the paint, how they use the light and the selection of colors. So I am from a fine art background. I used to paint and sculpt. So for me, when I want to make a film, I want to experiment with my craft also. So this long shot and then mid shot and close up, this film language is have already done, it's already invented, it's very easy. Okay, put one camera here and one camera here and one camera here and you will be good. So of course I didn't want to do this. I use a lot of curtains, because as I said, families, homes are all about hiding secrets. So I was feeling to find a metaphor. I did that actually. I recognize the emotion, and I try to find a metaphor for that emotion. And that's how a lot of curtain came in my film. And like you were telling about the apple, which when the mother is sitting on on the front of the TV, and this apple slips from her hand. So it is like, so for me, somehow she couldn't uh, take care of her love. It slipped off from her hands. So it is, but I use the apple that it slipped off the from her hands, but it was that love, that lost love. Yeah. So I mean, many things like this, but yeah.
Yes.
Thank
So
you,
would you
ma'am.
like to open this up?
Yeah,
How
yes, ma'am.
Please, I would love to.
Thank you, ma'am. Now the platform is open for the other participants. Nigila, ma'am, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Uma, for a film like this really, you see the value of a discussion. I think we are all going to try out our own particular and subjective understandings, of the film vis-a-vis each other. So it was such a pleasure listening to you, Uma, and all the sense that you made of it. And Nidhi, thank you first of all for making available this wonderful film. Samvartha had told me about this film, and for a very long time, we wanted to have this discussion on TFO. So thanks, and also thanks for telling us about this film like a viewer. So it's not just your own, the maker's perspective. Now, when you go back to watch the film, what a sense do you make of it? Also, is help us to see where you're coming from and how you're looking at the film from this vantage point. As you said, I'm also in some ways going through a fairly difficult period of relating to my mother, and in so many different ways. This film was so close to home, I would think. And that moment, for me, the defining point of the film was that birthday moment where everyone is trying, where the mother is trying to blow the candle out, and then it's just kind
And the
of
men
lighting
take,
up.
yeah, and the men take
Yeah.
very
Sorry.
funnily. Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry. So mother tried to blow the candles, but the men takes over.
Yeah.
We don't know who these men are who is taking over.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, the men take over, and then blow the candle, and then the revelation of the child. Um, if looking for a narrative in a non-narrative, uh, I thought that was a moment which, if we are looking for a cause, might have explained, so much of the trauma, the guilt that the child turned adult has to live with, um, of the betrayal. In a way, the betrayal is innocent, as you said. It is to curry favor with a powerful parent. But what impact it has on the mother, I thought, my God, I mean, what in what diverse ways that manifests itself. So it's something that one simply cannot reconcile oneself to. It also reminded me of Bapsi Sidhwa's novel Ice Candy Man, the child betraying the ayah, and what it means as a child when you look back at what you have done inadvertently or innocently or wantedly, and what impact that has in terms of uh, who you look upon yourself as. Of course, and also, as you said, there is no easy romanticization of mother-daughter relation here. It has all those dark spots and dark interiors, unspoken anger, yeah, a whole lot of emotions which are never straightforward. So there is guilt, there is regret from both sides, and this is not a mother, who is empathetic, as Uma was saying in that conversation where the daughter says, demands, "Why don't you talk to me?" And uh, obviously a whole lot of I mean a great deal of relationships are also what where language simply does not seem to matter. I mean, they don't talk. So, as you said, I mean, there is no talk, there is no conversation. So, I mean, it was an extremely difficult watch, the film, not just because of personally, for personal reasons, but also in terms of trying to go along with the film. In fact, this afternoon I watched it again, and it was like watching a new film, because I felt, my God, I've missed out this. How could I? It didn't register the first time, because the first time you're watching the film, you're so keen, intent on making sense of it. And then when you don't worry about making sense and just go with the flow, I think that's a very different experience of the film. Thank you, Nidhi, for this really wonderful film that you have made. And thanks also to Uma. Over to you, Krishna Priya.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else need to add on? Ananya? Oh, Geeta, ma'am? Would
Yeah,
you like to add on?
yeah. Thank you, Krishna Priya. Yeah, thank you so much, Uma and Nidhi. Nidhi for that really beautiful film, and Uma for the excellent introduction to it. And like Nikhila, I too found it uh, like not exactly difficult, but yes, um, troubling to watch for the sheer density and the complexity of of the emotions and of a relationship that we all kind of have with our mothers. And the poetry of the film was something so touching, something that I really enjoyed. The flying curtains and the nude figure, almost like an Amrita Shergill painting, and the use of light and shade and uh, everything about it was just stunningly beautiful. So this is what I experienced while watching the film. The real beauty of the form of this very exploration of this complex relationship. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Ananya, would you like to add on something?
Yes, I would like to come in. I was just waiting for somebody else to take the room in case anybody was there. But yeah, so am I visible and audible properly?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nidhi ma'am and Uma ma'am. I'm truly so thankful that Uma ma'am, you delivered such a productive and such a new preview of your analysis of the movie. As Nidhi ma'am rightly pointed out, I will admit, I really will admit that your discussion of the movie brought in a lot of new perspectives for me. I did have those similar analyses, which I did come across many of those moments wherein my analysis was a match with yours. For example, the phallic symbol of the belt. I also the moment I saw the daughter pointing out that was a snake, and the mother picking that up as a belt. So what hit me directly kind of right away was that was the belt of the father, or maybe that was the belt of the mother's lover, who might have unfortunately gone into gone into somehow misusing the opportunity with the daughter to abuse them. So that was what really crossed my mind for most. But then I also explored, and I think that this is a whole new segment of the movie for me to explore. So that is the element of nudity that I came across, the nakedness that's in the movie. We see a naked woman twice, I think, if I read that right. So there is one moment in the movie which is so touching, so heartfelt. In the movie, when the daughter who has grown up is seated up front of the mirror and is having a conversation, which is the voice of a male, I think. The male is saying, as if some type of a trick, some type of a magical trick to disappear, that if you sit down by the light of a candle and you just stare into the mirror completely naked, you start disappearing. And the way that the male voice leaves that technique right there, that ek din gayab hua tha main bhi thoda sa. And then that's just right there, that you leave that message. And the movie is so full of these terse lines, so full of these so impactful sentences, which kind of help you develop those emotions and feelings, and they suddenly stop. And that's when the impact as if asking the impact to come back and hit you in the right ways. And the movie was just so beautifully full of them, so painfully full of them for me. And Nidhi ma'am, I must admit this, that I'm so thankful to the platform of Talking Films Online, which, the platform has brought me closer to the kind of movies I didn't even know I needed to watch. And I have watched countable movies being on the platform, thanks to Nicola ma'am and Geeta ma'am, who are organizing and inviting all of you, the speakers, arranging these sessions so properly, so beautifully. So there have been countable movies which have really stayed with me, and I have wanted to watch them again. And this was definitely one of those movies. I was, in fact, ironically speaking, this was one of the movies which, when I watched at a certain stage of the movie was beginning to feel like a horror movie to me. When at the movie, in fact, begins with a daughter carrying some type of a microphone, or like a phone which can detect voices of ghosts in the house. So that just felt like that there was an element to that. Maybe that things are going to get paranormal in the movie. Nothing like that nothing like that happened in the movie. But there was a certain stage where I was just starting to gain the sense of fear, that as if asking myself, do I need to be cautious about what's going to come next? But I really enjoyed all of the emotive connotations and denotations of the movie. So there are just two questions from my side. One of the questions will be, your work on the shadows in the movie, wherein we see, as Uma ma'am also pointed out, that there is a playful moment in the movie wherein the daughter barges into a conversation maybe the mother was having with the lover, and then the daughter asks who they were talking to. And that entire moment has been captured in the form of shadows, where we see just a small girl and a bigger Hyatt, as if indicating that these two are going to become each other through the threads of the fabric. So in that moment, and I saw the work of shadows throughout the movie, the shadows and reflections on the mirror. So, ma'am, my question will be to Uma ma'am as well as Nidhi ma'am. My question will be differently addressed to Uma ma'am. So the question will be how Uma ma'am can add to that, can analyze that element of shadows in the movie. And for Nidhi ma'am, I would like to know what type of references you addressed, what really inspired you to think about how you could work so well and so strongly emotionally with the shadows. And yes, and one more extra question for Nidhi ma'am. how long did this take you to you read through any screenplay, any work that went into doing the movie eventually? How long did this take you, the entire process?
Uma, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll be short because I want to hear what you say as well. Yeah, that scene really stood out for me, like it did for you. Yeah. Um, it was very moving. Yeah, and I think it boiled down to the way she says, "But, talk to me." I just loved it. It was a very human child moment that I think that's why it just got me by the throat. And as for the work with the shadows, yeah, the film is full of it. The billowing curtains, the mosquito nets, everywhere. The when they walk in the shadow of the father, when he goes up and down the stairs, the shadows really fill the film as well as light. And that's part of grammar, right? That's what Nidhi said. She definitely likes to use the grammar as art, and that's where that was coming from. And I loved what you said, actually, which is a new dimension for me, that you saw the shadows almost coming together and becoming one through the fabric. That is so interesting. I think that is because eventually both their lives are so intertwined and so dependent that they're almost one. So yeah, so I don't have much more to say about that particular scene, but I did, even at the end when she's sitting and the golden light on her, when she's naked in the mirror with that whole scene with the vanishing, and then she vanishes, that also was a very curious scene for me. I didn't know what to make of it. So Nidhi, you can add to that, and um, the whole idea of wanting to disappear, wanting to explode, just finish yourself, eliminate yourself. It really brought so much pathos to the story, the way that was used. So yeah, I don't think I'll say much more. Nidhi, you please carry on.
So I was just feeling that these relationship, the father, the mother, they are all, or even the child, they are all reducing to their shadows. They are no more real people. They are just the shadows. Only the shadows remain. And one more thing, sometimes we feel scared of shadows also. I mean, they are not very it's not a very settling feeling to see a shadow. We usually got scared. Oh, there is a shadow. Even from our own shadows, we tend to get scared of. So I was just feeling that they all are reduced to shadows. They are not anymore real people, and somehow everyone is scared of everyone because of they are reducing to shadows, and maybe they will vanish someday. And yeah, so this was the reason of shadows. And the second question which you asked, that how long it took. So I think it took a lifetime. So I used some of the pages from my diaries, and a few scenes I directly borrow from my memory. And I used a lot of diary notes when I think I used the lot of my notes when I was in my 18s, in my 17s, or in my late teens, when I was in my late teens. So I don't write a lot of diary these days, but I was an avid diary writer. I used to say that, no, I'm not a writer, I'm a diary writer, because I used to love writing diary. And yeah, so when I was writing this film, especially, I went through my diaries when I was a teenager, mostly. Yeah, but yeah, so, but it all came together in 4 months, 5 months, I can say. But yeah, but I think I was working on it for so long, and I wanted to make a film from the memory of my childhood, and that though that part in which she's a kid and the father comes and father is on the tour and mother is talking on the phone, actually though some bits of that I directly borrowed from my diaries. uh,
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. And indeed, I must deliver my special thanks to you, Nidhi ma'am,
Thank
Nidhi
you
ma'am,
so
for
much.
really doing a movie like this. These are women like you I look up to, who are inspirations, real living inspirations to be strong and be confident about the truth in the heart, at the very heart of you, like how you feel. You must be there is power in your vulnerability. There is power in in the dark moments of your life. I'm so inspired by you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you so
Thank you,
much. I
Ananya.
just want
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
I want to add one because she said about power. So I am not a very confident person. I'm a very I but whenever I see women by men, a strong women, a vulnerable women by men, I always feel no, this is not the real women. I mean, I feel they turn the women into the men. But I feel, but these are not my problems actually. My problems are something else. They are coming from the long history of patriarchy, from this generational powerlessness and all that. Um, so who is the strong women on the screen which I'm seeing? So I just tried to write down that real women or whom I have seen, that she is married but she is in love with someone, and this is for me, it's very powerful to allow herself to fall in love.
Thank you, ma'am. Fabian, ma'am, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah.
Huh? Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Do you hear me? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for this brilliant presentation and for sharing with us this beautiful film. It's a really beautiful film. I'm a filmmaker myself, and my last film was self-fiction, and this film particularly interested me regarding the genre of autofiction. And what really, the first reaction was how beautiful the light is dispatched, how beautiful the light is mastered, and in all the scenes, especially with this car coming on the left of the screen with the lights of the car, and then on the right of the screen the lights with the candles, the way the house is lighted, the lightning of the house. And it is not gratuit, we say in France. There's a meaning, because some of the characters wouldn't bear harsh light. You know, half light makes the film possible, and it is so intelligently distributed on the characters, because it is half truth, it is memory, and it is memory and trauma memory, not a normal memory, but a child memory who was stuck between a ill mother and an absent father, with a house who is like a horror movie. And in your film, the monster is almost the house. And I said, oh my God, she's so intelligent. She made a revolution of the horror movie. And it's a revolution of the horror movie, because you feel this house. You feel the walls of the house. You feel the watering of the house. You feel the curtains, and the house is like a monster with mixed with the traumatic with a trauma. And the metaphor that you use, like the snake, I don't know if you have read Freud or Lacan. The snake is sexual, is a sex symbol. And in my view, I was thinking, is the trauma related to rape? And at the end of the film, I thought, yes, but there's a million of rape in this story. It's rape of imagination, rape of innocence, rape, many abuses. You know, rape generally talking, even rape, symbolic rape. And the monster is also this young woman wanting to disappear, like in a Buddhist in the Buddhist religion. She wants to collapse, not die, but disappear. Which disappearing is different from dying. And I thought that even the gesture, you said that you experience craft, and you are making a dialogue of different craft, because the way she is on the bed is like a sculpture, and then you have the lights, and then you have the poem, because this film is a poem completely. And I don't know if you know Marguerite Duras. She's my favorite French novelist, and she was also a filmmaker. And once she said something very powerful. She said that her books are films and her films are books. And I could say that to about your film. This film is almost a poem, and it's a dialogue of different arts. And that's why it is so innovative and so beautiful. And I was delighted. And even if I had many things, I had many questions in my head, and I said, the the film doesn't give answer. I don't need answers. I don't need to know if it's sex, not sex, what is a trauma. I know only that there is violence, and the house is a metaphor of this violence, and it's really it is talking visually. So thank you so much for sharing with us this beautiful, very beautiful and inspiring film. And I have no question. As I was not waiting for an answer, but I have no question. Only to say thank you to you, and to congratulate you for the courage and the innovation, because as a horror movie, I think it's so, because horror movies generally are stupid, it is so written, there is introduction, it's always someone is very innocent, and it it is written in advance. But here you don't care, there is no logic, and we don't need the logic. So it, so thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And I really want to add one thing. You said it very rightly, because in my mind, homes are not I mean, they are places which we should left. Uh, because, I mean, for women, they made houses to lock them up. They made houses for women because in India, men was always, in his hand when he wants to go and when he wants to enter. And sometimes these women, they they get used to of living in the house locked up in the house so much that they don't even realize that it's the house is to cage them actually. So yeah, for me it was the house. When I was working, I took the references from the horror movies houses actually.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very powerful in your film with the light and also the way you use the light. Really, I think it was very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Divya, ma'am, would you like to come now?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nidhi, and thank you, Uma. Nidhi, I believe you've done the screenplay writing program from FTI, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I'm from FTI as well, and I don't know about the screenplay writing curriculum, but it seemed to me, and I've read some of the books, and I was a little privy to the program when it was being designed many years ago. What the reading material then, I don't know if it's changed or not, but the syllabus seemed to be full of, the usual standard Robert McKee and Sid Field and Hero with a Thousand Faces and all that. Your film completely breaks away from all those conventional texts, and I'm so grateful and glad for that. And I want to know about your how you structured the film, your process of writing your screenplay, which completely breaks away from all the traditional rules. And it's so evocative, it's so suggestive. It's not telling anything, it's just suggesting and evoking, which is really beautiful. So could you please talk about that?
So yeah, first thing, yeah, the curriculum in FTI screenplay writing is same as it was 20 years or 15 years back. And they have three act, they have characters
Yeah.
goal, they have, but I'm a writer also, and I used to write stories. And actually, the writers which I love to read are John Rulfo, Marquez, or Murakami, or some Spanish stories or South African stories, which are very, very close to folk and medical realism. And the films which I used to enjoy was also doesn't fit into the three actor structure and the character goal and the traditional things. So eventually, I feel we end up making the film we like to watch. So it doesn't. So I used to write screenplays like I learned in FTI, but then I went through some of my old writings and my diaries, and I felt, oh, I used to write like this, in which characters doesn't have any goals and without any strict rules uh, and reasons. And I felt, oh, my writing used to be very free of all of this, and I like this one. And I shared it with few of my friends, and they told me that, "Nidhi, this should be your first film." And I didn't wanted to make a film, but Kamal Swaroop, the director of Om Darbadar, he came to take one workshop, and then he introduced me with R.D. Lang's. So R.D. Lang's books, and he told me that, Nidhi, you should make a film because you have a very strong imagery and sense. I said, yeah, because I came from the painting background. And then he messaged me that you should make a film. You are not a writer, you are a director who writes. And I felt okay. When he's saying maybe I can dare to do this. So, I mean, every story has a different kind of, uh, I mean, we adapt it differently. It comes from the story itself. Like in this one, I was in the awe of R.D. Lang's Politics of the Family, and it's a very, very political book which says that that families are faulty, all the relations are faulty, and even, I mean, it feels okay, son can do this to father. I mean, that's a very goody-goody relationships, but they are not. And he is trying to give socio-economical reasons for behind every relationship. And I read this book and I felt now I can see few things more clearly, or maybe not, maybe. But then I selected one poem by R.D. Lang, and in that poem, the son and father was having a conversation, and I tried to write the conversation which I want to do. So I wrote that conversation first. So it's there in the film in bits and pieces. But yeah, I wrote the conversation first, and then I tried to find an imagery which can match the emotion and metaphors. So I collected all the metaphors and imagery, and then I tried to fix it like a puzzle, like a jug thing, like a picture book puzzle. This goes with that, and that goes with this. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Thank you
I
so much.
wanted to have something magical in the film, and it has to, because I'm a fan of magical realism in which people vanish and everything. So I felt this girl is for sure suicidal. But should I show the suicide as suicide, but as a magic? When someone wants to commit, wants to vanish from the earth, it can be magical also. So I replace suicide with this magic trick in which you just get vanish magically without any pain or without anything, but with just a trick. Yeah.
Thanks so much. And can you please also talk a little about the cinematography and the color grading? I mean, it was beautiful, the soft images, the light. So, can you please talk a little about that?
So I collected a lot of images from paintings, and I was so clear that the film should look very high contrast.
Okay.
As Uma also said, that nothing is clear. Everyone, I mean, we can see half face and half is in dark. So I was and it's about secrets also, that everyone is hiding something from each other. They are not having a real conversation. So nothing should be visible, nothing should be lit properly, especially the faces and the places also. So yeah, I don't remember that, but I use a lot of paintings, high contrast paintings to, and I give it to my, and I was thinking also that it should be very grainy also, because it cannot be smooth, it cannot be lit, it should be very, very grainy. Like in Hindi we say khurdura surface. So I was just feeling that if someone can touch everything, it should hurt their hands.
Okay.
So we put a lot of grain, and yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you, ma'am.
beautiful.
Thank you, ma'am. Sushma, ma'am, would you like to come? Sushma?
Hi. I was feeling like, I'm outside a house and I want to knock and enter and see what all it has got inside, because the way Uma has explained the story and others have contributed, I haven't seen the film, so that's why I'm an outsider here, trying to enter the house and trying to see what all goodies it has, which I've been introduced to. And I'm looking forward to seeing this film, but I don't know how. If somebody can guide me or tell me how can I and where I can see this film, then I'll be able to talk more about it, and I would love to talk about it. I'm also a film student in a way. I do theater mostly. I'm a writer too. So I am very keen. I just chanced upon this message from Oma on Facebook, and I said, I want the link. I want to come and join. I only read cinema and Oma. Those are the two words that attracted me, and I'm here because of that. And I'm so glad I am here. And I've been listening to all of you and trying to join the dots here.
I've got a very good idea of what the film is all about. I've got a very good idea how the film is looking. I've got a very good idea about symbolism and metaphors that are being discussed here, about lights, about soundtrack, about the grades, the grading and the lighting and everything, and the apple slipping from the hand, and the curtains and the water. Everything sounds very, very beautiful. Only thing is, I have to see it with my own eyes, and I'm hearing a very good story, but I have to see it now live on screen. How can I do that if anybody can guide me?
Sushma ji, I have sent it to you on Facebook Messenger, where we corresponded. The link to view the film with the password is on your messenger.
Okay. I missed that. I've been actually, my show was happening. I just got busy from my show. I just saw your name and I said, "Arey Baba, this I will the one way of getting connected." So I just took the link, Zoom link, and your name I read, and I'm here I am. But now, thank you for telling me that. I will go. I will now watch this film. I think Sudhir and I both will sit and watch together, and definitely I will share whatever is my my feeling about the film with you, definitely, and you can pass it on to Nidhi. And Nidhi, I believe you've done a great job. This is what I hear. Congratulations. And I'm really looking forward to seeing your work, and yeah, all the very best for many more such projects in the offing.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Tarakeshwar sir.
Nothing much to say. There was a good discussion so far, and I was listening to it, and it's already 10:41, so I don't want to delay the inevitable for everyone. But I just want to say that literally it was full of images and also literary images. So in that sense, uh, we can go on interpreting it, and as we are doing it, and generally, as Nikhila would say, if you go beyond 10:30, then that is a good film and a good discussion. So we are already 10:42. So thank you, Nidhi, for the film, and thank you, Uma, for the discussion.
Thank you, sir. Sanjay sir.
Yes. So that was a quite enriching discussion, and I really thank Uma for bringing up so many points, and Nidhi also explaining. And I was very happy that Nidhi was talking about R.D. Lang. In fact, one of my favorite writers. Um, these were the people like R.D. Lang and David Cooper who belonged to this anti-psychiatrist movement even before Foucault made certain things popular in academic discourse. These were the people who were talking about these issues. So R.D. Lang, and I have never read any poetry by R.D. Lang, but now I will go and read because when you were talking about his poetry, I didn't know that he wrote poetry also.
He
So
wrote a lot of love poetry also, which is long, tall love poems actually,
okay.
but yeah.
Yeah. So I will go and read his poetry also. So since he belonged to this anti-psychiatrist movement, and he had this notion of the demarcation between normality and abnormality is very thin. It is, where do you draw this line? What is normal and what is abnormal? So when the situation becomes when itself abnormal, and the people, how can they behave normally in this kind of the family when the lady is living, and how can we expect from her the normal behaviors, quote unquote. mm? so um, um, so who is normal and who is abnormal, that is already questioned. And this very the shadow line between these two notions which are highlighted in this film, and the concept of waiting, like mother and daughter, both of them, they are waiting. When you are waiting, you you feel that, that is what we call the subjective notion of time, that the time is not moving. So you are stuck at one place, and something what happens in Waiting for Godot, then you are waiting and waiting and waiting, nothing happens. Okay. But when you are waiting and when nothing happens, what happens? That to show in a film, I think, is a really a challenge. Because at least, you can describe that in a novel, in a short story. But to depict that with another medium, that is a real challenge. And the use of mirror was also very interesting. In some of the scenes, I could see that we see the multiple images of Nidhi or her mother. So I think, and then so that the mirror doesn't create the illusion of togetherness or companionship. It just multiplies loneliness, nothing else. So that it heightens the effect of loneliness. Like when we break the mirror, and you are one in the mirror, and when you have different pieces, still in every piece you are only one. So it just multiplies your loneliness. It doesn't create the illusion that there are so many people, there is a crowd. And these people, mother and daughter, they are like in living in a prison. This kind of the family which tries to mythologize, tries to romanticize the relationship between mother and daughter, between father and son, between husband and wife, all kinds of relationship, and tries to keep the secrets within the family, within the walls, four walls. Those secrets um, caught, captured within the four walls are being discovered through the microphone which she is moving inside the house. So that was interesting. And again, and Fabian was talking about this Marguerite Duras, and she made the film, and later on the film was written as a novel also, like Hiroshima Mon Amour, Hiroshima My Love. So there is a certain kind of poetic characteristic in that film, when the lovers are talking and the Second World War is evoked. That's also a kind of traumatic situation, but expressed in a very poetic way. And here also you have this traumatic situation, which is presented in a very poetic way. I think probably Fabian was talking about that. But thank you very much for um, making this film available to us. We saw it, and Uma brilliantly captured the nuances of this film. So thank you very much for enlightening us.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, sir. Thank
Yeah,
you,
if
sir.
I can add something.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Sanjay. Yes, you are right. I was thinking about Marguerite Duras, but she made she directed a film herself called India Songs, and I think I don't know if this film is very well known in India, but it should, because it's a very very interesting film, and it's almost a piece of poetry. It is very slow. There is few movement, and but you are never bored like the film that we saw today. It is very slow but full of action. And Marguerite Duras is in India Song. she has this kind also of atmosphere. India song. I don't know, Sanjay, if you've seen that film. You can see it on YouTube with English subtitles, and I really advise this film. It's a beautiful film on colonialism. It's a decolonial film criticizing all these people who are in embassies, who drink champagne and listen to music. It's a very interesting film. This is only one point I want to do to add. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. David sir, would you have anything to add on? Sridhar sir, do you have anything to add on? Or anyone else?
I'll have one last question for Nidhi.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So Nidhi, considering all these letters that Nidhi writes to herself, if you were to write a letter to yourself, now to that Nidhi who made this film, what would you say?
I would say that don't ever got stuck in past, and it's over now. Move on.
Lovely.
See what comes in the future, and or maybe in present, maybe be in present. Yeah, and few more things actually. I want to tell her that maybe you have done this, now maybe you should move toward the films which are more accessible and less artsy.
Is there anything you would have done differently with this film?
No, not with this film actually. Not with this film, but so both of my films are very experimental. The second film also. And I felt they are going to the festivals and everything, but audience has changed dramatically. Because when I was young and I used to go to all these film festivals, I would love to watch experimental films. But I am feeling that the audience have changed and they are the young audience. So I got a fabulous reception in Kerala and everywhere. But still, I felt the young audience, they want something else. They don't want to watch a very experimental film. They don't want to make meanings and everything. I was surprised also. But I feel that maybe this is a time when people are going to more narrative cinema and less, yeah. So when I have done this, I should do something else.
All the best in whatever you do, but keep doing it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else need to add on anything? So let me wind up the section. I think no one has anything to add on. Thank you, Uma Magal ma'am, the discussion for your illuminating perspectives and that deepened our understanding of the film. We appreciate Nidhi Saxena ma'am, the director of the movie, for sharing her work with us as despite a hectic schedule. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks to all the participants for their thoughtful engagement and to everyone who contributed to make tonight's discussion a success. With that, we will wrap up tonight's discussion. Thanks again to our speakers, participants, and everyone who made it happen. Until we meet next week at the same time, stay curious and keep exploring the world of cinema. It's Krishna Priya signing off. Good night.